Hello and welcome to the B2Beast podcast, the best place to collect killer ideas for big business. And today we have got a beast in the building. He is a globally top-ranked leader in analytics and economics, the host of the Accelerated Value podcast, and currently the CEO of ProofAnalytics, where he helps organizations manage and optimize billions in marketing spend. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mark Stouse.
I like that.
Welcome.
That's a new one, man. I've not experienced that personally. I don't know, in a podcast situation, or probably any other situation. So, that was awesome.
Oh, sincerely glad to have you here, man. It is an honor for you to share your time, your expertise with us. This is what it's all about. I would love to just start with capturing a quick little snapshot of your world. What are you currently most grateful for right now in your world, your life, your business, anything that you got going on there? What is top of mind?
Actually, you know what? That's a really powerful question for me right now, because about 2 weeks ago, my mom passed away, and she was very much up in years and all that kind of stuff, and that's really hard because my dad is already gone, and so it kind of, I think probably for everybody, prompts a somewhat existential period in your life, where you're kind of like thinking about a lot of stuff, and the temptation, of course, is to kind of dwell on what you've lost, right? And it doesn't mean you haven't lost it. I certainly feel that loss, right? And I'm not a real person, right? I guess. So I feel the loss, and I feel a lot of other losses, right? The last 3 years has been tough for a lot of people, including me. I lost 23 people, friends of mine, to COVID, right? So, I mean, it was, and other things, right? It wasn't just COVID, but it was, it got to where it was happening at such a frequency and such a tempo, right? That you were kind of like going, what the hell, right? I mean, like, what did I do? And I think that right there, when you start saying that, it's really time to recenter on what you're thankful for, because you, in this case, me, I made the death of all those people about me, right? And how it impacted me, and that's not where you want to go. That's a fundamentally unhealthy. It's very understandable, by the way, but it doesn't make it healthy. And so, what I'm thankful for, I mean, life is full of twists and turns and curveballs, and a lot of times very successful people get used to a lot of success, and so they start to kind of take it for granted. And then something happens, and they realize, oh, I can't really take that for granted anymore. And you know what? That is the earliest stage of being thankful for it again, right? So I am really thankful for all the success that I've had, but that's all in the rearview mirror. I'm thankful for the fact that in a very tough time in this world, I have a roof over my head. I mean, this is going to all sound very like I'm bucking for sainthood or something like that. And it's not meant that way at all. It's the truth, right? You realize that life is a series of numerator and denominator relationships. And you have to figure out what the real denominator is. And it resets your priorities, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And I am very, very thankful that I have almost all of Maslow's hierarchy covered. and that my kids are well taken care of, and that, all that kind of stuff is what I'm thankful for. And then I'm thankful for the fact that almost every day something happens that is very serendipitous. I meet somebody that all of a sudden is like, wow, that person could be really interesting. Or, and it goes the other way too. I mean, bad shit happens too, clearly. I guess, again, this sounds like I'm bucking for sainthood, but I also have learned to be thankful for the crap, for the bad. One of the things that I have really found out on this journey of entrepreneurship that I've had with Proof is that if you're open to it, and that is a key phrase, if you're open to it, there is no way that entrepreneurship will not make you a better person than you were when you started. And it is not fun a lot of times. In fact, I do not get the whole glorification of entrepreneurship. I just don't get it at all, right? But I am a substantially better person today than I was 6 years ago. And it was because of all the stuff that I've had to deal with, that I've been through. And so, yeah, it totally sucked, and I would not volunteer to redo it again, right? So let's be clear about this. But I'm very thankful for it. I'm very thankful for what I've learned out of it.
It is powerful. No, this is a powerful dose of perspective straight out the gates that I think a lot of people, especially when you're at the lower pieces of the journey or the earlier stages of the journey, you kind of build up that, once you get to this stage, you don't have to worry about that type of stuff anymore. I would almost say the opposite. You have to have that gratitude, all of that appreciation top of mind for the crap, the good stuff, the bad stuff, the full picture, absorb it all. And I think a lot of the listeners that are in this journey, they're either in the early stages of that, or they are in the crap and they're trying to level up and get to those next stages. So that's where we want to start steering that conversation, because you've had a really powerful and brilliant story from what I can see on the outside, but I'm seeing the 6-year mark of where things are at. So let's capture the best we can. What was the starting point of your journey to bring Proof Analytics to the market? And what has been the pivot points between that start and this finish, not even a finish line, I guess the current chapter, we'll call it, because it really looks and feels like you have started to craft your own lane and your very, very niche offer within analytics. But I'm curious, it probably didn't start like that. So I would love to hear the origin story of Proof and how you kind of brought that to life to its current form now, which seems to be kicking ass. So let's hear that story. Let's hear that journey.
Yeah, I think the irony, right, of my journey that led to Proof was, it started probably in 2001 or so, 2002. I'm at HP, and then by 2004, that's when Mark Furd came and as CEO, and Mark was a really, really tough dude. And he challenged the marketing leaders at HP like they had never been challenged. And he did stuff that quite frankly would have gotten him in trouble today, 20 years since, but didn't back then. I mean, he would get right in your face. And I mean, physically right in your face, where you could feel his breath on your face, right?
Oh my God.
And he would get really mad, sometimes little pieces of spit or whatever would but he was very customer facing, and he was very operational, and those two things typically do not exist in the same person. And he was just freaking fed up with the way that marketing was being managed at HP. Where he had no way of knowing. Well, what he would actually say is all the time is he'd say, I in talking with customers, I know more about your impact than you do, and he would say stuff like that, and you're just kind of like, and so I kind of got into this very existential place, about like, the way I was sort of looking at it at that time was I could either leave marketing altogether and go do something completely different, or I had to like fix this. But I was looking at it through my own self-interest, my own desire for significance, my own ambition, right? And so, looking back on it, I probably could have had like way better motivations on this thing, right? But that's the honest truth. And it ambition and a quest for significance, you'd be hard pressed to find two more powerful motivations to power a long and arduous kind of process, right? So I started kind of looking into it, trying to figure out what the solution might be. And I rapidly ran into something called marketing mix modeling, which was originated by Procter & Gamble, probably 20 years before that, and was very accepted and highly normalized part of large B2C marketing. Actually Ferd got really interested in what I was sort of doing. So he kind of played a role, and the CFO at that time played a role. And then all of a sudden I had this opportunity at BMC Software that I accepted. And the CEO of BMC was a guy named Bob Beecham, and he was actually really interested in this as well. And he and I kind of achieved a modus vivendi, right, on how he and I were going to work together. And he gave me like almost carte blanche to continue to learn, continue to develop a system, right, that would answer certain questions. And even then, he laid out the questions. We were doing it the right way, in a very preliminary sort of way, even back then, right? The business lays out the questions that marketing needs to answer. Then marketing answers them, right, using analytics. And so kept on cruising along, got to a fairly high level of maturity, got a lot of industry attention for that work. And the then CEO of Honeywell, Dave Cote, read about it somewhere. That's my story. That's what I've heard. And he sicked his recruiters on me, and kind of gave me the proverbial offer I couldn't refuse. Nice. And what I really mean by that is he correctly, very savvy dude, right? A former global CFO of GE, very smart guy. And he met with me, and then he said, I know exactly how to get this guy. And he basically said, look, I'm going to give you your shot to take everything that you have developed to this point, and I'm going to give you carte blanche to roll it out across Honeywell Aerospace, right? And we're going to see how it goes, right? And that, I mean, the money was pretty good too, but nevertheless, he knew how to get me. I mean, read me like a book, right? Fortunately for everybody involved, right? It worked out splendidly. I think the British would say that, right?
Yeah.
And so, today that is still part of the Honeywell operating system, which is a really famous kind of broad-based system of operations at Honeywell. But it became super obvious, okay, because it was costing us like $8-9 million a year, right? And the main cost driver on it was that we had to overhire data science guys in order to get the analytics happening at the speed or the low latency that was necessary for business leaders to make decisions using it, right? And that is, by the way, the big issue with analytics historically inside of a business setting is that it's too damn slow, right? So we looked at it and we said, okay, if there was ever an automation use case, this is it. But you can't automate analytics totally, right? Like you can't do lights out, no human analytics. It doesn't happen, right? So we had to figure it out, and so we created an LLC originally to just do a lot of the baseline exploratory work, and then we said, okay, we think we know what we need to do here, and we created a C corp called Proof, and we raised a little bit of money, not a lot of money, because we didn't want to be overly diluted. And we didn't do it from VCs. We did it from family offices, which I think is a sidebar story of note. And we built it. And looking back on it, I think that we were about 3 years early to the market because it was very prosperous times. Marketers were spending tons of money. There wasn't really a whole lot of pressure around accountability.
Yeah, to make it count.
Right. And then all of a sudden, COVID happened, the macro happened, right? And that was, those things were tailwinds for the analytics industry in general, right? And certainly for us, right? And so today, we have two products. We have what's called a marketing resource management. That's the category product, MRM product. And that's like a mini ERP for marketing. It's where you do your planning and your budgeting and your compliance and your digital asset management. And it's all that kind of stuff. And it's very, very valuable and very cut and dried. It's easy for people to implement. It's not a huge deal with a big impact. But we also have Proof MMM, right, which is marketing mix modeling on steroids, but significantly simplified and significantly automated wherever it can be automated. So we have largely solved the latency, scalability, cost, understandability problem there. And so that's the essence of it, right? But I'll tell you what I've really learned. The big takeaway, okay, for me personally in the whole journey was before Proof, I thought I knew the truth well enough to know that I would never say that I was indispensable. Okay. But I thought I was pretty close to that. You know? And honestly, I am a
rightfully so, yeah,
really smart guy, right? But when one of the things I love about analytics in retrospect is that, like physics, it's just a mathematical understanding of how the world really works. And one of the things that I learned was how significant everyone else and everything else is. Right? So like a mathematical reality, okay, is that roughly, when you're modeling a scenario, roughly 2/3, 65, 70%, somewhere in there, of the factors that matter are external. They're outside of your control. If we use a surfing analogy, they are the wave. You don't control the wave, you just react to the wave, right? Now, sticking with that analogy, what that really says too is that your ability to react correctly to the wave, even though it's a minority position in the whole equation, is really important. So what I learned about myself is that I am simultaneously really important. It's really important for me to do my part really, really well because I don't control most of the equation. So, anyone who's,
Wow.
I'm master of the universe. Okay. Let me just tell you, right? If you haven't figured this out kind of like morally and ethically at that level, let me just tell you at a mathematical level, it's total bullshit.
I love this. I'm a huge fan of transparency in every context: leadership, operations, business, interpersonal communication, and what you're providing for business owners and executives in this position is the ultimate transparency. I'm loving it's so compatible with my world, love where it's going, and I'm absorbing beyond the analytics lesson and obvious portion there of market need, desire, fit. I'm seeing a meta lesson around autonomy and ownership, regardless of whether you're on the executive side, the boss side, or if you're on the 9-to-5 worker side. As an employee, if you have that right autonomy, on the leadership side, providing the autonomy, on the employee side, taking that ownership, that is where all of this magic happened. If you were just sitting there and you were just feeling like an entry-level job description and they were playing that game, none of this would have came to light or came to fruition. I love seeing those.
I will also add this, going back to what we were talking about earlier, right?
Oh, perfect.
The other big lesson is the power of thankfulness and gratitude. Right? No matter who you are in the situation, I am so grateful every single day for our chief product officer and his development team, without which we would be so screwed sometimes it's not even funny, right? And I think that, what gets lost a lot, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form an apologist for bad leadership, even my own, right? Especially my own. But I think that if you're down in, way down in an organization, it doesn't hurt to be thankful for the people around you and the people above you who are shouldering stuff so that you don't have to shoulder it. There are certain jobs that are classically 9-to-5, even today, that are made that way by people above those roles, right? The manager layers, who are not 9-to-5 people, who are essentially shielding you more than probably, from all that crap, right? Yep. And so we all have reason to be thankful, and it's sort of a law of the universe, right? To be thankful. One of the things I love about math, and I wish that it had been taught to me in high school this way, because it probably would have made a big difference, is that it breaks it all down. It's not perfect. This is a probabilistic thing. It's not deterministic. Only God has a deterministic understanding of the world, right? And we don't. So it's probabilistic. But, you see the way things really work. You see the value and the limitations of your place, your role, what you're bringing to the table. You see the same thing about all the people around you, the stuff that's going on outside in the world. And you rapidly figure out, man, you know what? I have a lot to be thankful for, right? And it's not even, you're not even saying, wow, thanks so much, I'm not like him or her. That's not the point. It's really, you come into this place where you're just saying, wow, you know what? I need to be more thankful just for what's going on in my life. And it's not a race, it's not a different kind of race. It's not a gratitude race, okay, between me and the rest of the world, okay? If anything, they don't owe me anything necessarily, but I certainly, as a person that has a moral and ethical and mathematical compass and a level of understanding, I owe it to them to be thankful for them.
Amen to that one. I think it's really one of those things that's so simple at its core, but difficult to do in practice. Bringing that presence. I think this whole story to kind of capture now in this third lesson is really about presence, being mindful of all of the opportunities, those little lanes, those pivots, on all the people that helped you along the way, because it's turned into something really awesome here, which is a perfect transition into what part 2 of the show is, which is capturing your secret sauce.
Where I was going to go.
Oh, perfect.
In chapter 1 is the perfect answer for chapter 2, right?
Oh, this is perfect because we're looking into your unique perspective that you've built, you've approached, your process or strategy for success in modern business, and especially for those that are looking to either start that journey of transparency and analytics, or more likely level up and recognize the gaps or things that they're missing. So where do people start that journey? And what are the necessary action items or steps that they should have on their menu for a proper analytics infrastructure?
Well, I think that my personal secret sauce, which actually does dovetail into an analytics discussion, if you want to have that one, right, is tolerance for pain. I mean, we all want to feel good about our jobs and quote unquote, have fun in our jobs. But if that's your primary motivation, I don't think you're going to get there. That's not my experience anyway, is that if you are going to do big things, however you wish to define that, however anyone else might define it about you, right? If you want to do big things, if you want to fix things, if you're kind of like an explorer, or you're kind of like an artist or a scientist like Leonardo da Vinci, who's a personal favorite of mine, right? You are going to have a lot of pain. There's going to be a lot of suffering. It goes with it. It just is. It's the price of it, if you want to think of it that way.
Wow.
And I think that the only way to build up the tolerance for the pain is to be really thankful for the rest of it. And even thankful for the pain, right? Because it's sort of like working out, right? Like I really don't like to work out. Like I really don't enjoy it. I know a lot of people that do. I'm not saying they're crazy or anything like that. I just don't. I don't enjoy it. It's painful for me. It just is. And I know that also 12 hours later, I'm going to have a second wave of pain, right? Because my muscles are springing back for healing and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of sucks, right? But I also know that it's good for me, and I know that it trains me and it strengthens me, and it make me able to do stuff with my kids when I'm much older, and their kids, hopefully, when I'm much older. And so I think of pain as my secret sauce, because I used to try to avoid it. And I've been blessed with a lot of material resources in my life, which, if you think about it, most of us use those to avoid pain, to avoid discomfort. We stay at better hotels. We stay at more exclusive hotels. We buy a box at the game, right, that separates us out from everybody else, right? We fly first class, and then if we really can afford it, we fly private. Okay, the list is endless, right? If you really look at the way you spend most of your money, or I'm talking about your discretionary money, or the way wealthy people really spend a lot of their money, that's what it's all about. It's about the avoidance of pain. We're all familiar with a person who, shops constantly as a way to feel better, right? It's an antidepressant of sorts, but it doesn't work for very long. So I think that you have to really say pain is not fatalistic. It's truth, which is different, right? pain is part of life. It really is. And some of us have a little bit more and some of us have a little bit less. And a lot of the amount of, what determines that, how much pain you have, is determined by what you're trying to achieve.
It is.
There are exceptions to that, obviously. But I mean, that's a general true statement.
I've been seeing the same thing over and over, similar to how you were mentioning. We don't understand how there's this glorification of entrepreneurship and the hustle and all this, because it does require a lot of pain. But as you're mentioning, it's a counterbalance. There's value in that. And I've known Alex Hormozy, who's been just lighting it up in business and online. His core concept is pain motivated him way better than anything positive, pleasurable, dreams of the $100 million business, etc. No, it was like depressing, like I wish my dad loved me, like type of stuff, very deep. And it's really just gives light to the power of that darkness. It's a weird contrast that you can't really have one without the other. So would love to hear how this relates into your approach, your system, your process for how you help businesses maybe get through that pain and recognize what really truly needs to be done. How does that process work for developing some level of strategy and or infrastructure for their analytics?
Sure. So I think that the number one, if you look at kind of the culture gap between the data science world, which is essentially a cult of precision, and I don't say that in any demeaning way at all.
Yeah.
But it is a cult of precision. And the business world, which if it is a cult of pragmatism. So this is oil and water, like from the beginning, right? And data science, like scientists in general, embrace the suck of the journey, right? They embrace the pain. They understand it's going to be painful to discover stuff, and they're going to just grind they're going to grind the mill, right? They're just going to grind it and grind it and grind it until they get where they need to be. And they don't typically have a lot of business acumen. They don't understand the business. So when they get together with business leaders or marketing leaders, right, you want to talk about two different languages, right? I mean, I'm talking about Star Trek variations of that theme, right? I'm not talking about French versus German. I'm talking about, Klingon versus English, right? So, and it creates a lot of pain for everyone, and it's why no one really wants to hang out with the other group, right? And so what we really understood over, this is all pre-proof, right, is that if these two groups cannot collaborate together and kind of get past the manufactured pain that they have with and for each other, right, that the math won't matter. The data won't matter. Nothing at all will matter, right? If you think about people, process, technology triangles, right? These are not equilateral triangles. That means every side is the same. These are scalene, right? They're raked way over. And what is that really long leg on that scalene triangle? It is people every time, right? Like the people make the difference. They make it great or they make it not great. I mean, nobody likes to hear this, but Gardner's written about it and Forrester's written about it and a lot of other people have written about it. When a product implementation fails, about 15% of the time, it's the fault of the product. The other 85 is the customer. As is the truth, right? So,
wow.
So this is about getting a customer into a place where there is a tolerable level of pain associated with the implementation, where it won't overwhelm their ambition to move forward, but you can't remove it all. And so automation of analytics makes a big difference, right? Particularly for the business side, the business users, right? Who really don't, they just want the freaking answer so they can make a better decision over and over and over again, right?
Yep.
So they are the least pain tolerant of everybody. The data science side, who we remove a lot of kind of drudgery type pain from their lives, right? They're more resistant to pain, but it's still a great selling proposition. So we are essentially a painkiller that converts, after you take it and removes your pain or a lot of your pain, and then converts into vitamins inside your body. That's really not just proof, that's analytics in general, right?
It is. No, this is, I love that example you just provided, because it definitely leans into that core theme that I was seeing that was actually kind of very similar to like nutrition or personal training, exercise, etc. That discomfort, even if it's on a business level, is going to lead to, that's where the growth is, that's where the progress is at, that's where the magic is at. And a lot of business leaders try to play the polish it up, make sure the analytics look as good as possible, play with the numbers, all of that. And really what we're seeing here is those that really have the balls to buck up, implement a system that has that transparency, rip off the Band-Aid and get to the source of the wound. You might be bleeding dollars that, if you fixed it, could be the lifeline of your business years down the road versus the demise. And that is so powerful to see.
And here's the thing about it. I agree with you totally, right? Here's the big takeaway, okay? This whole approach that we have automated, because there's no black box in proof. There's no special proprietary math, right? It's totally transparent. That math is the stock in trade of B2C marketers and has been for decades, right? It is so proven in the go-to-market context that the reticence historically of B2B marketers to get in, to accept this and to implement this is sort of mind numbing, right? I mean, you're just kind of like, and really, and I've done so much work on this. So I'm writing a book right now on the modern CMO, all right? And so I'm interviewing tons of people, and it's amazing what you learn outside of the sales motion.
Oh, I'm sure.
So it all comes down to, it was seen as too painful. Don't want the pain, right? I don't want the pain of having to set it up. I don't want the pain of having to continually feed it. And I don't want the pain associated with the accountability that might be coming my way, right? And you're like, okay, so let me just tell you something. Number one, on the accountability side, most marketing teams have correctly deduced what works. They just can't prove it, and they can't optimize it as things around them change, like the ramifications of COVID, right? Or a bad economy. So when you implement proof and you start getting the initial analytics, what you are going to see, I can just promise you this, okay, is that there's going to be about 25 to 30% of your marketing spend, or your entire go-to-market spend. So marketing, sales, customer success, and product, right? That's a bust. It's not getting you anything, right? And that's going to be kind of like, that's terrible, right? But it's actually not, right? Because you can do something now that and it's very specific. It's going to tell you, the analytics are going to tell you exactly what's underneath that big percentage, right? And you can take steps extremely fast to stop that stuff and move that money to other things that are working well, right? And then continually rebalance your portfolio, right? And so you go from kind of a moderately sucking story to a story that is never very out of bounds ever again. So this is very much like a GPS, right? Why do men, my wife says this all the time. Why do men like a GPS so much? Well, it's because asking for directions is an admission that you're wrong. Okay? A GPS, I had a CMO say this about Proof not too long ago. He goes, I love Proof because it means I'm never wrong anymore. I'm kind of sitting there going, whoa, back the truck up, right? How does that work? And then all of a sudden it dawned on me what he meant, right? So in the same way that a GPS in your car or on your phone is correcting you and rerouting you, and so you always get to your destination, right? You might have to do it a little differently because of things that happen, but you're always going to get there, and you might only be a few minutes late. That's so what he meant. Powerful. That's what he meant, right?
So powerful. I love the GPS coordination because it goes hand in hand with what I was thinking, which is speed. Business is a game of speed very often, of making those decisions very quick. And this is super powerful for people to remove friction, increase transparency, and increase speed of that decision making. So powerful. I love it, Mark. Let's go ahead and jump into the world's fastest game show. We're going to play 3 rounds of this or that.
Okay.
And you'll have a nice little prize / pitch here at the end. So round 1, let's hook it up. Round 1 is a zoo or an aquarium. This or that.
A zoo.
Zoo. All right. Next one is breakfast or dinner. What kind of man are you?
Dinner.
Dinner. Love it.
Although I have been known to have pancakes and waffles for dinner. So,
oh my God. This is the weirdest thing in the freaking world. I literally just did a random generator that I'm going to put a screen share on for a brief moment because it literally just gave me waffles or pancakes as the option. This is the weirdest thing I've ever had happen on a podcast, but Mark just unfolded the future. To prove this is a random generator, I'm going to click it a couple more times, but go ahead and answer your question you brought into existence. Waffles or pancakes?
Yeah, I have to go with waffles.
Love it. Well, you just beat the game with a special bonus that no player has ever done. Absolutely love it. So please go ahead and share where this listener can get a hold of you individually, or if they're interested in pursuing this hyper transparency with Proof Analytics, how can they get started and connect with you?
Sure. I mean, probably the fastest, best, easiest way to reach me personally is through LinkedIn. Just send me a DM. I almost live in and on LinkedIn, right? And mainly because my role is really sort of like to evangelize and get people excited about analytics and about Proof. And so I just have great conversations on LinkedIn, right? So that's the way to do it. You can, the email is really not a good way to reach me, at all. I mean, I'm 57, but I'm in some ways much younger than that. And I am definitely more like my son, my oldest son, who just wouldn't have an email account for anything. So that's kind of, I wouldn't do that. If you want to learn more about Proof, the website is ProofAnalytics.ai. And, I would just also just reach out to me. Also our head of sales, but he's pretty unsalesy. I mean, he's a very consultative type person. His name is Nicholas Kappas. And he is an email dude. So it's Nicholas.Kappas, Cappas, at ProofAnalytics.ai. So, we can, between the two of us, we can totally get you going and help you learn whatever it is you want to learn.
Perfect. Absolutely recommend that follow on LinkedIn. Go ahead and get connected with Mark. Follow Proof, what they're doing, just game-changing stuff for you guys that are looking to take your marketing and every single dollar you're spending to maximum efficiency. So I love what you're up to, Mark. I'm so sincerely grateful for you for sharing your expertise, your journey, your time with us today. So for that, I just have to give you a sincere thank you for everything you're doing out there in the world. It's very obvious how you've shifted from that internal focus to a much more external, just making the world a better place for the data nerds and geeks out here. So thank you so much, Mark. We appreciate you. And to our listeners, thank you for listening to the B2Beast podcast. This has been Mark Stouse.
You're a beast.